the idea of a transition program, as usually thought of, is usually at the high school level, and it's providing life skills and pre-vocational time where students can engage in these activities. They can practice taking public transportation. They can practice, navigating their community and their community mobility skills to get to their job placement. They can practice job skills in either a simulated or a natural business environment, work in a kitchen, work in an office, um, work in a bowling alley, things like that, to provide that experience to help students figure out what they like and build those skills within school years.
Yeah, so if they continue to be eligible for services under IDEA, then they are eligible to receive those services until their 22nd birthday. So their last day of school would be the day before they turn 22. And that is completely free for all of the families. They're given a lot of access to community resources and community agencies, so that when they do turn 22, it's hopefully a smooth transition. I can speak to how it is within CPS. I work with the teachers. I usually collaborate, again, like I said earlier, on writing the goals, as well as the parents on writing the goals, figuring out what everyone's priorities are, where's the student at in the classroom. I often find that something that the student does with me one-on-one might be something that they haven't generalized to the classroom yet. So maybe that's something that I would push into the classroom and make sure they've mastered, or write a new goal that they make sure that they master that skill in the classroom. And that might be because of the noise in the environment or the distractions, but making sure that that carries over. So then working with the teachers on the accommodations and modifications, and that's usually a very collaborative process with like other service providers. But figuring out, does the student need extra time to transition between classes? Do they need modified paper or modified scissors or other tools? Do they need someone to walk around and check in on them every few minutes? Do they need a checklist for their arrival and departure routine? So all of that kind of stuff goes into the accommodations and modifications. And we usually work with the teachers on those to make sure that's all in there accurately and depicts all of our different areas. And then for the educational goals, sometimes I might go in on a goal with a teacher, and we can both take data on that specific goal. So I would say overall, my role as the OT in CPS is to consult, figure out, problem solve with the team, what works best for the student, what supports are helpful, what could they bring when they graduate from high school. And then looking at environmental adaptations, I think OTs bring a really nice perspective of looking at the holistic task and not just kind of like academically where the student is at, and kind of breaking it down into those motor components, the processing skills, the environmental adaptations, all of that. We can kind of look at it in a very unique perspective that's helpful, and a lot of people don't really have that holistic view when it comes to these skills.
When you really leverage the student's desired, self-determination outcomes or roles or how they view their future, when you really take into account what is the family, what are their hopes and dreams for their baby, their student, their young adult, what do they want? When you take into account what the teacher is working on, we are needed. There is no one at the transition table that looks at occupation with such a laser focus and are experts in participation. That is something that is distinctly OT. We look at enablers and barriers of participation in a way across settings, across activities, in a way that no one else does. if an OT is at 4 schools, if an OT has a caseload of 80, are they going to really be in the, like, with the caseload model, are they going to really be in a position to try and go the extra mile and provide consultative services when technically they could say they're fine, dismiss? You know, it's the caseload model is very you know, discouraging of keeping kids on our caseload, students on our caseload into their young adult years. So I'd say that's a huge barrier. And again, teacher pushback of, hey, we got this, you know, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine, you know. And then you ask the deeper questions of, you know, do they have a friend? Do they have a hobby? Do they have a leisure activity that they know how to do and enjoy and do regularly? Do they have exercise that they do and enjoy regularly? You know, again, that home participation piece, you know, when you think of their life in 10 years, what could we work on now so that their own goals and their family's goals for them are more doable? You know, because there's absolutely opportunities within a school setting to work on a lot of these commonly shared, you know, oh, well, I wish my sophomore in high school could get dressed. You know, we have that. And, you know, there are therapists that might say, well, they're a sophomore in high school. If they haven't mastered it, they're not going to master it. And I've worked with a lot of students who have later in their school tenure acquired really, really meaningful skills. So I would kind of, you know, even for your more severe and profound students, even for, you know, students with very limited mobility, you know, or a lot of medical issues, there are ways that we can foster joy and foster choice making. And that self-determination piece is so big of continuing to have the conversation with the student of, what do you want your life to be like? And, you know, maybe they can answer verbally, maybe they can answer with, you know, from a photographic, you know, picture surveyor, interest inventory. And a lot of OTs are kind of siloed and trying to figure out, you know, each person for themselves how to do it. You know, that is a barrier for sure. It's a barrier. And I think that the more we can disseminate what OTs are doing, what it looks like day to day, wins and losses we've had, practical suggestions, I think that that really is helpful. And so one recommendation that I would have is to join some communities of practice of OTs. You know, if you're interested in transition and you really, you know, you want to get involved, you're not sure where to start, find some other kindred spirits that are interested in the same thing and maybe already doing it in, you know, maybe people are doing it with a ton of administrative support. Maybe people are doing it kind of lone wolf on their own, but you can kind of understand from others' experience, you know, and get some ideas. And communities of practice are really great places to find those practical suggestions.